circular economy. So for us today, we want to learn, and it will be, I'll be too glad to have the CV of the first speaker shared. You understand? So that she can come up with her presentation. Today is not the day for me to talk, but for us to sit down and listen and take in, what they are saying. Then after, we will come up and round up, because I don't want to preempt what they will say. Thank you once again. And so, Dollarine, please pull up the profile while you unmute me. You understand? So that everybody is muted. So that everybody is muted. Mute me, I mean, so that everybody is muted. As they come in, you mute me, you mute people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful address. Without further ado, we have two wonderful speakers here today. We have Mrs. Chinaza Arukwe, and we also have Mrs. Chinweba Esther. Without further ado, I would like to present the first speaker for today, Mrs. Chinaza Arukwe Moses. Mrs. Chinaza is an eco-explorer with a BSc in Geological Sciences. She has over 5 years of experience leading groups and working on projects in Nigeria. She serves as the project secretary for the Nigeria Industrial Raw Materials Database Project, coordinating efforts across 36 states. Additionally, she is the business operating manager for Devoik Integrated, a leading data science organization. Mrs. Chinaza co-founded the GeoBreezer Solutions, a startup focused on geoscience data analysis and innovative mapping. She is passionate about mentoring students and advocating for quality geoscience education, volunteering, and such. Mrs. Chinaza has received several awards, including the SCG and AAPG scholarships, as well as research grants. She is committed to empowering African STEM students to achieve global relevance and contribute to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Outside work, Mrs. Chinaza enjoys singing, traveling, and spending time with family and friends. She's married to Mr. Samuel Moses and continues to inspire and make a positive impact in her community. Mrs. Chinaza, it's a privilege to hear from you today, and I would like to welcome you to take the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Delorine. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes,
I can. We do. Yes, we are hearing you.
Okay. Can you see me as well?
Unfortunately, I can't see you from my end.
You have to share your screen.
Okay, let me jump right in.
Dollarine, do you make her a co-host so that she can share her screen and
Yes, I'm a co-host already.
Okay.
Let me know when you can see my screen. My slide.
Yeah, you are seeing your screen already. Your screen is already on. Just start it. Yeah, that is it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. And I want to first of all start by appreciating the president and founder of the Women in Mining Nigeria initiative, Engineer Janet Adeyemi, and the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to come and share my knowledge on this August topic, a very important topic, women in mining, navigating the energy transition and the new technologies. So it's such a privilege to be here, and I hope that you will learn one or two things, and it's just about sharing. So moving on, I think that this topic is very important because of the era that we are in. We hear about the energy transition, we hear about the new technologies. So even the video that was being played before we started this program was all about disruptive technologies in the mining sector. So the presentation is to tell us as women in mining how we can actually still maintain our ground or even gain more relevance or take our places in this space of energy transition and new technologies that are invading or becoming more prominent in the mining industry. So moving on, first of all, I would just like to say that energy is very, very vital for human flourishing. Without energy, we won't even be doing anything. And all forms of energy have their advantages and their disadvantages, even as we are talking about energy transition. And then energy security is one thing that drives every global leader. And to ensure this energy security, we are going to always pay attention to options. And that is why we say that the new phase of the digitized mining sector breeds more space for women with sustainability in mind. So with that, I'd like to start my presentation by talking first of all about energy fundamentals. If you're looking at the global concept of energy, the global context of energy, you talk about energy security, you talk about economic security. Energy security leads to economic security, and then you now come to climate security. These are the three triangles that forms any energy foundation, right? And then in terms of geology, we tend to say that all these things make up 100%. But when you're looking at it holistically, in terms of energy security, you are looking at, is this energy that is being supplied, is it reliable? That is what you talk about in terms of energy security. You're also looking at the economic security in terms of how affordable it is. In as much as it is reliable, we know that solar is reliable, we know that wind energy is reliable, but is it affordable? Can the poor masses afford it? Can a greater population of Nigerians or Africans afford this type of energy? And then when you want to talk about climate security, you're talking about, yes, we have reliable, we have affordable, and this makes it clean. You are looking at 100% clean energy, but then the reality is that reliability and affordability now becomes 0% in as much as it is 100% clean. So that is what brings the middle, where we talk about the trade-offs. You have to make this compromise in terms of, you have to always stand at the middle to make sure that, okay, it is reliable, it is affordable, and then it is also clean. You always have to come to this radical middle and make this compromise. Now, when you look at another picture of this energy security drives economic prosperity, right? So when there's electricity, people can work. The cost of working is reduced. People don't need to spend their money buying fuel just to produce. The cost of production becomes less, and that ensures any economic security. That's in terms of prosperity for people. And when you have achieved energy security and economic security, you now start looking at, okay, all these things are happening, what is their impact to the environment? How do they dirty the environment? And how can we begin to clean up the mess that we have generated from these processes of creating this energy and also industrialization? So you're looking at these three things, and then you always have to make that compromise again in terms of, you have to seek the balance in the middle, just like you see in this circle here. Security has to be reliable, it has to be affordable, and then it also has to be clean. It does not need to, pollute the environment. It does not need to put lives at risk. That is what we are talking about in terms of global security. So you can talk about that energy security allows economic security, which also underpins environmental security, right? So moving on, everything in our lives actually depends on energy. Whether you talk about your house, your mobile phone, everything virtually, from the coffee that you take, the toothpaste, your brush, and all that, all of these things rely on energy. Yet, many people cannot meet their basic energy needs. When you talk about light, you talk about food, you talk about access to clean water, and you also talk about homes, because this energy that is being generated is either contributing negatively or derailing their access to food production, or derailing their access to clean water, polluting the environment, or even leading to flooding all these environmental hazards that derails people from their home when we are trying to also meet our own energy. That has always been the case of why we need to move into energy transition, trying to balance it up. But before we run into that, we want to look at the relationship between poverty and electrification. If you look at Africa, you see this chart here, you see that electrification rates, when it's high, you see that we have low poverty. But when you look at Africa now, the electrification rate of Africa is low. And that is why we have what? High poverty over here in Africa. And then if you move and look at Asia, where you have a very large population, the size of the circle is proportional to the population. So you see that they have been moving from low electrification to high electrification, leading to what? Increased wealth, increased economic stability. That is low poverty. And then when you look at the Latin America, that is over there in the global south, you are looking at high electrification that also leads to what? Low poverty. So there has always been an established relationship between the rate of electrification and the rate of poverty. They are always proportional to each other. So when you look at it, you see that 75% of the people that live in Africa, 75% of the global population live in Africa, Asia, or Latin America. And these people, yet, the electrification rate has not yet been stabilized. It is still low. That is why we have all these low, high poverty rates in these places. But again, if you're looking at a projection by Scott Tinker in 2023, he looked at again the future. Yet this future is not even still making sense. Africa, if we continue the way that we are moving now, Africa will still have low electrification, just a little bit moving to the medium, and then you still have what? High poverty. So that leads to what? Increase in demand for energy. Because if we are going to ensure economic security, the need for energy has to be what? Has to be met. So let's look at it again from another angle in terms of global income. When you're looking at this map, you see the areas that have low electrification, the low energy, that is low electrification. You can see them, they are yellow, the red, and then high are the ones in the blue, in those developed areas. That also matches with what? How the livability of the city. When you go back, you see that the places that are emerging and developing, they are what? They are even the places that we have what? Low energy, low electrification. So there has always been this relationship between what? Electrification and poverty, and how it affects the standard of life in those areas. Moving on, in Africa, we are talking about how do we actually, when we are placing this energy transition properly, we are looking at what? Affordability. Yes, we know that the renewables, so to say, they are good, they are clean, but are they actually affordable? Can people in Africa afford it? And then when you look at the people that are already developed, they already have what? Economic security. They're looking at how reliable is their energy sources is. And then when you look at the developed countries, they are now looking, because they already have energy, it's already reliable. What they are now looking at is how to clean up the mess. They are more focused on climate security. So this solving the global energy demand is not the same way it applies everywhere, because there are peculiarities to these things in each part of the world. In terms of clean air, when you are looking at it, you see that it is those developed nations that are already working on their climate security. They already have the energy. Now they're looking for how to clean it up. They are the ones that have what? The cleaner air. But to be over here in Africa, our air is still what? Still dirty. We are still producing. We are still trying to find how to even get access to the least affordable energy. So poor countries can't afford to clean up the environment that is being generated from producing all this energy, from meeting their demands. So this is what calls for what? The energy transition. You must bear those three things in mind: energy security, economic security, and then environmental security. Moving on, this presents us with a paradox, and that is how to properly navigate this energy transition and technology as women in mining. Energy will not end poverty, but if we really want to end poverty, we really need to increase our access to reliable, affordable, and environmentally safe energy. Now let's look again at the global energy trends. When you're analyzing annual primary energy consumption by energy type, you see that oil and coal, they already have the highest numbers right from time since the inception of this production of this type of energy. And then, yes, they are very dense, so they produce more CO2. That's their nature. And then when you are now looking at the natural gas and the nuclear energy, they have also been increasing, but the amount that is being produced, the amount that is being consumed is not to be compared as oil and coal. And they have less dense CO2. They produce CO2, but not really that as dense as that of oil and coal. And then the last one is the ones that we look at as renewables. That is the wind, the solar, the geothermal, the biomass, and the rest. They have also been increasing as the years go by. So they are not dense. That is, they don't even give off. There was a survey that we were doing now, we're asking people that are into steel manufacturing, people that are into high energy consumption. They'll tell you they can't use solar energy to do that kind of business. They need the one from the fuel, the one from the coal that will be able to produce the amount of energy that they will use to run their business. So this type of energy, it's true that they are clean, but they cannot produce a very dense energy that you can use it to run high energy intensive operations. So that is the dilemma that has been faced in energy consumption. And you see those decrease in energy, it was during the COVID in 2020. If you move on again to by region, how this energy is consumed by region, you see that North America, Europe, Middle East, they have this high energy consumption. Just like I analyzed initially, they're already developed, so they consume energy, right? And then you see Asia Pacific, very, very high. That is the China region. You know that most of all the products that we use here is from China. So they are producing. They are in the industrialization is very high there. That is why they are consuming energy, right? And then you see that of Africa and Latin America, very lean. We don't consume much energy because the rate of industrialization in our continent is still low. So it's also reflecting on our energy consumption. Now, for the energy mix, taking it at some by region, look at India. You see that their energy for oil and coal about 83%, and then the renewables taking about 9%. And you look at China, 74% oil and coal, and their renewables 15% is increasing. Why oil and coal is decreasing? And then when you look at the US, you see all of them, they all started with coal and oil, but then they are decreasing. Why their natural gas and geothermal are also increasing. So then when you look at Europe, the same trend. The use of oil and coal is decreasing generally. Why that of the renewables, that is hydro, wind, solar, geothermal energy, are increasing because of the desire to bring about climate security. Now, this leads us to electric vehicles, because we are looking at mining. When you are talking about mining, mostly it's normally the solid minerals. So these electric vehicles, they are being powered by what? Battery, which is their major component is lithium. And these batteries, that is where the world is going to. In fact, there was one that has even been introduced in Nigeria recently, Max, keke, and the bike. They now run on electric, no longer fuel. And they are even doing it in a very affordable way that you can buy and then pay instrumentally. So these things are beginning to start being in operation even here in Nigeria. Now, to be able to, when you're looking at the forecast, these batteries that are going to be charged by coal in China, the chart increases, right? But in the rest of the world, it decreases. And for these batteries, you are looking at just like you have your filling station, you are going to have these charging stations. These charging stations are going to be run on batteries, because it's battery that has to charge what battery, electricity have to charge these batteries, and they have to be generated by this renewable energy. So you then see that means you are going to be having up to 3.5 trillion batteries that wear out. These things are going to be produced. So there is more need for these minerals, these critical minerals that are going to be used to produce these batteries, to be mined, to be explored sustainably. Moving on, for the raw materials for power and transport, you're looking at the electric vehicles, like I said. You can see that copper is the one in blue, makes high percentage, as well as graphite and lithium, and what? Nickel. We are still the ones that will be providing the critical minerals that are essential to drive this clean energy in the power and transport sector. So even in terms of power generation, like I've also mentioned, that in terms of onshore wind and offshore wind that are beginning to gain traction now, you're going to see that zinc is also another critical mineral that is necessary for the production of this onshore wind and offshore wind energy. And then for solar, you're going to see that here that copper and manganese plays a very critical role in the production of the solar photovoltaic cells that are used to trap this energy from the sun and convert them to electricity. So all these things require drilling, and they do what? And they produce emissions, as well as solar, wind, and electric vehicles. In as much as they are called renewables, they also require mining. And where will these batteries be disposed? Because batteries don't last forever. Where will they be disposed? They will either be disposed at landfills. Okay, so and this calls for what? Thinking of the future. What is the future? Where am I going to place myself? Where do I begin to gain ground? Engineer Janet was talking about recycling, right? We can begin to go in terms of how do we recycle these batteries so that they don't end up at landfill, the circular economy. Just before we get there, in terms of resource extraction and processing, when you are looking at countries that have taken these things in place, you see that in terms of oil and natural gas, the US, they have it, right? And then followed by Australia and Myanmar. Then for copper, look at the countries that are extracting these things. You have Chile, for copper, you have Indonesia for nickel, and then you have cobalt, of course, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. That is the only African nation that is being placed on this map as a key extraction country for cobalt, which is a very critical mineral in this energy transition. China and Australia have been everywhere. I know that they are also here in Nigeria extracting. After they will say it's China. So in terms of processing these minerals now, US and Qatar, they are in the oil refining and the LNG refining and exporting it. Then China has saturated everywhere. Copper, nickel, cobalt, lithium, rare metals. They export these things in the raw form and process it and increase the value chain, right? And then sell it at a very high price, because when it is processed, the value increases. So what we mostly do over here in Africa or Nigeria, we have less of processing of these minerals. And I think that that is one of the initiatives that Women in Mining has been promoting, how to make sure that we start increasing the value chain for these our raw materials, especially with the conference, the gold and gemstone, right? So all these China people. Hello, Delorine, please can you help me to share my screen? Battery.
Okay, let me work on that from my end.
Okay, right. Okay, thank you. So all these China, they pack this and then they are processing it and gaining these things that are being extracted from the African nations and other nations. So, like I said, China controls the global supply chain for solar, the materials for solar, for wind, and the batteries. And it's something that we as women in mining in Nigeria, we can begin to think of how to position ourselves to gain our ground, not just in extraction, in processing. If we cannot enter those fields, if we cannot go to those places, we can actually think of something and establish our own firms that we can start processing these raw materials so that we can gain more value. These things are in this country, they are in Nigeria, they are in other African countries. We can start positioning ourselves to begin to process these things. Moving forward, in terms of the annual millions of tons of lithium carbonate equivalents in construction, in operational supply, recycled supply, and non-finance projects, the demand continues to increase, as well as what? As well as the price. So there's been an increase in this critical battery raw material since 2020. You can see it from the chart that cobalt the price of cobalt has increased to nearly 100%. When you look at graphite, that one is more than 200% price increase from 2020, just 4 years ago. And the one that has been on the rise is this lithium. So there has been an increase in the critical battery raw materials cost, especially for the processed ones. So we can start enhancing our skills. We can start thinking in terms of entrepreneurship, of how to actually position ourselves to tap into this profitable area of processing critical battery raw materials. That would be
Dolorine, did we lost her or what? Is it her network? She was kicked out or something? Anyway, before she comes back, I'm sure we have been well. Is she back? Hello? Okay.
Yes, ma.
There's an echo there. Please control that echo. Yeah. Chinasa, are you back? Well, in the interim, before she comes back, when she comes back, I will stop. But I think this subject is extremely very, very important. And why we brought it up today is that most women, especially in Nigeria now, are they are going through what I call a kind of depression, finding themselves in the sector. And I think it's because the needed knowledge we don't have. This is the time for women to be extremely excited. Excited because of the numerous opportunities it has in the sector. Mining is going to, Gina, are you back?
Yes,
Mining,
ma'am, back.
okay, so you can take over. I wanted to fill your space. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sorry about that. Same issue of electrification. So, okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so moving on to the global emissions trend.
I think you have passed this slide, Chinasa.
Oh, wow.
You were,
Okay.
you have passed this, we've discussed this. You were talking about the contribution, you understand, the quantum of contribution of the mineral resources from each of the
Yes.
African country. Yeah.
Yes, please, next slide. Go. Keep going. Sorry, my slides are animated.
No, just keep
All right.
going. Wait.
That's where we want now. So in
Yeah.
terms of how we actually reduce this emission, so that former slide was talking about the emission CO2 emission by regions. That's what it was actually talking about. So how do we reduce these emissions? We look at technology. We're looking at cost. We're looking at scale, and then we're looking at time frame. So there are technologies like CCUS. Just keep going. What's that? It's highly animated. So there are technologies like you look at in terms of what we are doing, natural gas, nuclear replacing coal, because coal is a very high CO2 emitting mineral. And you're also looking at hydrogen, you're looking at geothermal, and you're looking at hydro sources. And then you're looking at technologies for actually capturing this CO2 that are being emitted in the environment. You're looking at carbon capture, utilization, and storage technologies, direct air capture, and natural solutions like your forest and all that. And then you are also looking at solar, wind, and what? Batteries as things that can be used to what? Reduce this CO2 that is in the atmosphere. And you're also looking at, again, efficiency and conservation in terms of recycling. At the end of their life cycle, we want to make sure that they don't just end up as waste. They end up, their life cycle is enhanced. They can be recycled, they can be upcycled and used for another thing, not just contributing again to the CO2 emission, right? So options is required to reduce global emissions at scale and be able to provide this reliable energy that we are looking for. Next slide. So looking at broader environmental impact, whatever energy sources that we're looking at for this energy transition, we know that the atmosphere is all interconnected. The air, the land, just keep going, sorry. The air, the land, the water, right? Everything is in a cycle. When the air is clean, the waters are free of pollution. The land also is free of waste from mines, from spilled oil. And then we can talk about energy that does not actually affect negatively the environment, because the environment is an interconnected system of the atmosphere, of the land, of the air and water. Next slide. So you are looking at, when you're looking at this transition and energy, you're looking at where you actually have this energy without negatively affecting the environment, without negatively impacting the environment, without destroying the air, without destroying the land, or energy that you're even going to produce and then it cleans these things for us. Next slide. And that brings us to the life cycle impact. If you're looking at these renewables, keep going. All of them, they are called renewables. When we were in secondary school, they told us it's energy that can never finish. Energy that can never finish. But when you're looking at it in the real sense, in terms of biofuel, let's look at biofuel. You have to grow the plant that you're going to use. You have to process them. You have to then deploy them, and they are transported to where they are going to use, and they are finally combusted. And then when you move on next, you move on to the solar, the wind, and the hydro. They are not just the wind, the water, and the sun cannot just give you that energy. What is going to combat it? Those critical minerals that you're going to use to produce the solar photovoltaic cells, those critical minerals that you're going to use to produce your turbines for the wind, and whatever you're going to use to construct your dams for the hydro, they have to be mined. Their materials have to be manufactured, and then they are deployed and transmitted, and in the end, at the end of their life cycle, they are deposited in a landfill. So they are not all that renewable, like we so to say, can never finish. When the minerals are exhausted, that form of energy cannot be produced anymore. Then when you are looking at our own, what we have been always known for, the coal and the natural gas, they are mined, they are manufactured, they are drilled, refined, transported, and combusted. Generally, next slide, generally, all these things, they are going through the same process. So we are not living out of the phase. We are not going out. We are still there, just to ensure that the processes of generating this energy are sustainable, that they don't end up affecting the environment negatively, like I've always been mentioning. And that is what is leading us to the energy transition. Next slide. So what exactly is energy transition? It is just adding to energy while reducing emission, right? So we are trying to add the energy, because if we're ever going to develop Africa, if we're ever going to develop Nigeria, to make sure that people are working 24/7, we need to give these people energy. We need to give them electricity that is affordable, reliable, and will not also negatively affect the environment. It's going to reduce CO2 emissions. So looking at the this chart for the growth, I think I've looked at it before, but it is projecting of these so-called renewables, where they are going to be. Keep going. You can see that, look at that chart, you can see that oil and coal now decreases, while natural gas actually increases. That is the one in the red, right? It increases while it is also going down. Then solar, wind, and hydro, as well as geothermal energy, now what? Increases. So this is like a projection of 2064. So you begin to see where are you going to be concerned in terms of the exploration you are doing, in terms of the kind of entrepreneurship mindset you are going to create, and also in terms of the skills that you're also going to acquire. You want to make sure that you are positioning yourself in a field that is not just going to become irrelevant in the next 20 to 30 years or even 50 years. Next slide. Keep going. Yes, keep going. Sorry, I have so much animation. So energy demand is going to what? Keep increasing, right? And then we still need to keep what? Filling these things without negatively impacting the environment. Just keep going, please. I think you're going back. Okay.
To start rounding up.
Yes, I am. Yes, keep going, please. Okay, before it gets to where I want, Delorean, please go in. I will talk about the 7 key technological innovations that are currently in the mining industry. Some of them, we viewed them in that video. So you have the mining drones. Because to access most of these sites, they are not safe for humans. So drones have started, have been deployed to go into this environment and take the safe time. They even capture the geophysical data for you. And they will also have virtual reality, whereby you don't need to now send your employees to the field. They can just stay in the office and you are simulating, you are showing them what the mine site, you are training them. Even as we are doing now, is also part of virtual reality. And then you have this 3D printing where companies now can print their mining equipment. Immediately it's spoiled, they just print it there and then. So it saves them the stress of carrying heavy materials for a long distance. Anything that will save time and cost also leads to CO2. And then you have your artificial intelligence, whereby you can have this data science, just like we do in my company, in our company. So you will use this AI to analyze these things. You can predict, you can forecast, you can make fast business decisions, and even tell you how where your minerals are located, how to the best way to mine them. So moving forward, what do you now do to actually harness this digitized face of mining industry? That is my last slide. You can take up, we know the normal ones, leadership management roles, technical and engineering roles, where you have your mining engineers and the geologists. But now, in terms of technology and innovation, you can start venturing into data analysis. To become a data analyst, you must not go to the field. You can start learning how to use this AI and machine learning to analyze all these data that are being generated from the company and help them to make their best business decisions. In terms of sustainability and environmental impact, you can start becoming a sustainability coordinator. Your role is to make sure that the mine operations are being affected to release the least CO2 emission, right? Then in terms of entrepreneurship, your startups, you can even run mining consultations and startups that will recycle these materials, try to find a way that they are not dumped. You can start begin to think in that direction. Or if you're in the finance and investment area, you can also use data to analyze financial investment opportunities for people that want to invest in mining, because money is all there is. So in conclusion, key points, next slide, is that there are over 6 billion people living in energy poverty that need secure energy to live better lives. And energy increase will lead towards net zero poverty. So we must balance energy, economic, and climate security. And the energy sustainability challenge is not simple, because it's not the same everywhere, but it is solvable. That is why we are women. We can solve any challenge that comes our way. And then the new face of this digitized mining sector breeds space, more space for women with sustainability and technology in mind. So thank you very much. That will be all from me. Okay, that's the end.
You can see me clapping here. I'm so excited. I'm so proud. I'm so happy. A PhD lecturer couldn't have taught it more than what you have explained to us today. These are things in the course of life that we picked, and I'm so proud. I don't know of other people here, but women my generation should be so proud of you, and I'm standing up, if possible, to applaud you. Applaud you in the sense that you provided all the deliverables in my notes. You understand that I think anybody should bring out, when you're talking about a topic like this. And the thing is that our take home today is for women to be able to see the opportunities in this space. Women are smart. You understand? And so if we choose to really work together, to understand, I must warn us, this is not a sector where you go for competition. You could see that it is a sector where the challenges need what I call unity, all working together, because the investments are not cheap. If we calculate our age here now, I'm sure the youngest one in this room will be maybe around 25. And you are talking of Agenda 2064. You are talking of agenda, because if you look at the graphs she showed, you will find that the issue of wind, the issue of solar, the issue of uranium sources, nuclear sources are just coming up. We still have coal and oil, you understand, fossil fuels still dominating. So before you get to that breaking point where you will say, yes, you know, there's a breaking point where you say, yes, we have now moved into that era. Most of us who have been old. So right now it's still very expensive. Even in America, you understand, it's still very expensive to have solar. I'm not talking of the cheap adulterated things that you bring today. It is on the batteries on, because the battery is the life of the solar. You understand? So we have to, what must our governments do for those of us in government? You understand? Because the race, she came up with a balanced equation. Look at the global north, look at the global south. The differentials between the two of them. At what speed? So what speed? Can we compete and move at the speed of the already developed country who are trying to consolidate what they have, or those of us whose energy penetration is still extremely low? Extremely, extremely low. We are lucky to have continuous power supply for about 4 hours in a day. There are some areas that don't even have at all. So how do we now balance this thing? Can we go at their speed? No. At what speed can we go? Because if we go at their speed, to remember, some people will lose out completely, and then we enter more poverty. So for me, I believe that this topic should make us go back and start thinking, what do we do? Jatropha tree is what the world is investing and buying. You plant one Jatropha tree, you earn $10,000. You understand? That's an opportunity. You want to look at consultancy. How do you want to get yourself grounded, you know, through solid educations like this, to understand how do you want to readapt your knowledge, you know, to key into that sector, to see what you can do as a sustainability consultant. How much of ESG do you know? So for me, it's a class that if you want, because if we want to break it down here, because it will take more than the number of hours we normally use in teaching. And I know that my sisters from other African countries are equally here. You know, the issues in every country differs. When I was in the board of ICRC, and we went to South Africa, this was how we were admiring South Africa, the energy situation, the roads and everything. But today they are fast degrading. So we don't even know who is worse now. Is it Nigeria in terms of energy situation, or South Africa? And so some other countries, except countries like Botswana, who is doing very well in the South. Most global South countries are in trouble. So we need to look at our investments in renewable energy, have a mixed energy source in Nigeria, where we are looking at the different sources of energy, and then we now do what we call conjunctive use of energy. And the rich ones are already doing it, but let it spread to the middle class, if we still have middle class in Nigeria. If we go to some houses now, you know, remember they have inverter, they have solar, they have a generator, they have the normal power source, you know, from the grid. So if we have the investments in renewable energy, which allows stored energy, you understand, to be to hook into the grid line, I'm sure most of us, our problems will be solved. Then the energy access and equity too. She talked extensively about it. The policy regulatory framework, government must really look at that and see, how do we make sure that our regulatory framework, you understand, enforces policies that incentivize renewable energy? How do we promote it? Do we create tax incentives around it? Then capacity building and technology, just like what we are doing today. Let all of us, we studied in the university, I don't even know what the curriculum is now, but in our own time, there's nothing like this. You pick it. You pick it through attending conferences and things like this. So let's get more aggressive, you understand? Attend, anywhere you see knowledge coming up, jump into it. There's always something to take away. Then the climate resilience and adaptation, there are also things government must equally focus on. Then private sector collaboration. Government cannot do it alone. So we must find a way to be able to collaborate to accomplish all this. Before, we believe that once you talk about uranium is for nuclear for nuclear issues. But the world has since found out that uranium is a clean source of energy. Yes, the initial capital cost might be high, but even the waste, you understand, is not harmful. So you find that the Western countries now are going after uranium. I didn't know this until I went to Namibia for a conference. So we need to keep on engaging. And all of us in their women network, we need to keep on engaging. Association of Women in Mining in Africa is very important so that we share ideas. We bring our ideas to the table. And then we see what we can do. What do we gain? How do we align, taking advantage of African continental free trade? There are quite a number of things that has been suggested here today. Now, looking at the mineral belts around DRC, what can we do there as a network? You know, involving Dorothy and say, Dorothy, this axis, can we all come together and see what we can do? So I hope that with time, this has triggered, you know, this young lady has been able to trigger, you know, some emotions in us and with our men. Because when we are talking about investment, nobody is leaving anybody behind. And I keep on telling the men that, you see, women in mining came up because then it was like a taboo that women are not supposed to be at all hard. But today, we are conscious that together we can grow. So we respect those he for she men who are bold to embrace women into their circle and let us all work together. So once again, we say thank you for attending this class, and we will now call on the second speaker. The second speaker is another young lady in the sector who will be looking at the sustainability dimension of everything we have said today. So put up her profile and so that we hear from her speak to us today again. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, Mrs. Chinaza, for that wonderful presentation. This is just a warm note that your questions can be dropped in the chat box and they will be attended to at the end of both presentations. On that note, I would like to welcome the second speaker for today, Mrs. Chinweba Esther. Esther Nnamdi is a seasoned exploration geologist with Chalion Integrated Services Limited. She is a geology graduate from the Federal University of Technology, Owerri in Imo State. She has been actively involved in the solid mineral sector for the past 12 years. As an exploration geologist, Esther has traveled to almost all the states in Nigeria using different geophysical equipment like the GD10 Geomative to acquire geophysical data. She is also involved in core drilling and logging services. She has also offered voluntary services in the sector. Mrs. Esther is an active member of the Nigerian Mining and Geoscience Society and the Nigerian Mining and Geoscience Society Southeast and South-South Coordinator. She's a member of Women in Mining Nigeria and the current coordinator, Anambra State Chapter. She is also a member of the Initiative for the Advancement of Mining, Earth Sciences, and Environmental Protection. Her passion and zeal for the solid mineral sector is unmatched. Mrs. Esther, thank you so much for the privilege to hear from you today. The floor is yours.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening, everyone. My name is Esther Chinweba. I want to appreciate the President, Women in Mining, and the executives of Men in Mining Nigeria for this beautiful opportunity to present this great topic to this wonderful gathering today. So my topic, please, Doreen, help me to share. The role of mining and mineral development in driving sustainable industrial development. So introduction. The The mining industry have a valuable and positive role in sustainable development, economic and social components by creating employment and wealth. Then minerals play a key role in the economic development of a country by effecting the industrialization. We need minerals to make cars, computers, concrete roads, houses, fertilizer, jewelries. And without mineral resources, industry would collapse and living standards would plummet. By creating high-paying jobs and providing the raw materials essential to every sector of our economy, minerals mining helps stimulate economic growth. Hope you can all hear me. Hello?
Yes, ma, you're very audible.
Okay. Then what is this mining and mineral development? It refers to the process of identifying
Hello, ma, kindly unmute.
Okay. Mining and mineral development is also an important sector of the economy, as minerals are essential for many industries and sectors, including construction, manufacturing, electrical, energy, etc. Next slide. Introduction continued. So what is sustainable industrial development? It includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions and mitigating climate change. A sustainable industrial development refers to the development of industries and sectors in a way that is environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable. And what is sustainability? It refers to the ability of an activity or system to continue indefinitely without depleting or damaging the resources on which it depends. Then, so how can the development of mining and mineral sector help to drive a sustainable industrial development? Let's find out as we go. So, mining and mineral development includes activities such as exploration, that's the value chain, mineral value chain, prospecting, mining, processing, and each step matters. And you can't do this without the next one. They follow sequentially. Then it can also contribute to the development of local infrastructure, such as roads, ports, and power plants, which can in turn support the growth of other industries and sectors. It aims at assessing and mitigating the potential impacts of mining activities on the environment and local communities. It also looks at planning for the closure and rehabilitation of mines, including the management of waste rock and tailings. I was opportune to see, instead of throwing some of these rocks we get, the gang minerals and throwing them away, I saw where they are using rocks to produce pots, plates, and utensils, and they're so beautiful. Rocks that people throw away. So it also covers the aspect of trading minerals and mineral products in domestic and international markets, and collecting taxes and royalties from mining companies, because they are an important source of revenue for governments, which can be used to fund public services, infrastructure development, and other initiatives that support sustainable development. So in the context of mining and mineral development, sustainable development can also imply to ensure that mining and mineral development is managed in a way that minimizes environmental damage and also maximizes social and economic benefits. It develops mining and mineral resources in a way that supports the transition to low carbon and renewable energy technologies, promotes transparency and accountability in the mining sector, including through the disclosure of payments and revenue flows, minimizes environmental impact by using clean technologies such as electric vehicles and renewable energy, solar, and other ones. So, then sustainable industrial development. This involves the adoption of new technologies, business models, and policies that support the transition to a low carbon and resource efficient economy. Some of the strategies for achieving this industrial development are reducing waste and promoting the circular economy, which involves minimizing waste and maximizing the use and reuse of resources like plastics, that we use and reuse. So investing in sustainable infrastructure such as green buildings, public transportation, and low carbon energy systems. Promoting energy efficiency and use of renewable energy sources such as solar and wind power, and many more. Then we have the sustainable SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals. We have that 17 in number. And next slide. The SDG goals, they consist of 17 global goals designed as a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. Each of these 17 goals is expected to be achieved by 2030 in every country around the world. And Nigeria is one of the countries. The project is a global call to put an end to poverty, secure the planet, and ensure that everyone enjoys peace and prosperity by 2030. It was adopted by 193 countries, with Nigeria as one of its country members. The SDGs are a set of 17 interconnected goals, which have targets with at least 1 or 2 indicators for each target. And the implementation of these global goals for all kicked off in January 2015, 15 years ago, against the 2030. Its objectives are to ensure social inclusion, protect the environment, and foster economic growth. Government, private sector, research, academia, and civil society organizations receive support from the UN as the SDGs encourage partnerships. It ensures the right choices are adopted now to improve life for future generations in a sustainable way. They are the blueprint for the world to experience peace and prosperity at its fullest by 2030. So, what's the role of mining and mineral development in driving sustainable industrial development? Because that's the main topic. That's where we are driving at. And what are these? How can they help? How can they be important drivers of sustainable industrial development? Firstly, they create jobs and generate income for local communities, which can help to reduce poverty and improve standard of living. Because most of these minings, they occur in villages, in our little communities. So they create income, generate income for the locals, the local communities who come to help out in the mine sites and all that, and improve their standard of living. That's when we mine right, when we don't destroy the economic trees and the environment. They provide the raw material needed to produce a wide range of products, from consumer goods to infrastructure and energy. They can stimulate economic growth and diversification, especially in developing countries that may be heavily dependent on a single resource or sector. They can also support the development of new technologies and industries such as renewable energy and green manufacturing, which can support the development of new industries and sectors. Mining and mineral development can also contribute to the development of human capital through training, capacity building, and skills development programs for local workers, which can help to build a skilled and competitive workforce. The taxation and royalties paid by mining companies can provide a significant source of revenue for governments, which can be used to fund social programs, infrastructure development, and other initiatives that support sustainable development. And developing the mining and mineral sector can also support the diversification of exports and the development of new markets for minerals and products. And in achieving all this, next slide, what are the possible challenges and their remediation? What can pose as challenge and how do we remedy it? And here are some potential challenges and their remediation. Firstly, the environmental degradation. Adopting environmentally sustainable practices such as reducing emissions, conserving water, and protecting ecosystems can help to mitigate environmental impacts. Then social conflicts. Engaging in meaningful consultation with local communities, that's ensuring adequate CDA is carried out, providing fair compensation, and supporting local development initiatives can help to mitigate social conflicts. Then in the economic dependency, diversifying the economy and promoting a sustainable resource management can help to mitigate economic dependency and vulnerability to market fluctuations. Then we talk about the capacity building. Building the capacity of local institutions and stakeholders to manage and regulate mining and mineral development can also help to mitigate potential challenges. We talk about capacity building every time, and that's what Women in Mining is trying to provide with this Wimti class. Climate change. Mitigating the impacts of climate change on mining and mineral development and developing low carbon mining and mineral processing technologies can help support sustainable industrial development. Then in the issue of governance, we have to ensure good governance and transparency in mining and mineral development. And this can help to mitigate potential challenges related to corruption and mismanagement, because that's what is damaging the sector, the mining sector, and maybe the Nigeria as a whole. Next, the industries that rely on the services of the mining and mineral sector. They include, they are very vast, because we'll be like, which of the industries, which industries are we talking about? And I'm here to list them for us. They include the energy industries. The energy sector relies on minerals such as coal, oil, and natural gas for electricity generation and transportation. The manufacturing industries relies on minerals such as copper, platinum, and nickel for the production of electronic components, appliances, and other products. We have the electronics industries that relies on gold and rare earth metals for production of semiconductors. The jewelry industries that relies on gold, silver, diamonds, and other gemstones to produce jewelry and other decorative items. So we have the renewable energy that relies on minerals such as lithium here and there for the production of solar panels, wind turbines, and batteries. We have the consumer goods that relies on minerals such as rubber, sugar, cotton for the production of consumer products such as cosmetics, clothing, furniture. We have the electricals, the aerospace, the medicals. So this is the wind. Next slide. The wind turbines, the solar energy, and all that. Then the industry also rely on the services of the mining and mineral sector. We have the military. The military relies on minerals such as tungsten, steel, and titanium for the production of weapons, ammunition, and other military equipment. Chemical industries, construction, transportation, agriculture, and so on and so forth. All of these industries are reliable on mineral and mining development in order to thrive. So what is the way forward? Here are some steps that can be taken to promote the role of mining and mineral development in driving sustainable industrial development. First of all, policy and regulation. We need to implement policies. Not every time we'll be talking, we'll do this, we do that. Let's start implementation. Let's implement these policies. If there are no accepted policies, we'll gather let the government gather 15 or 13-man committee. Let them review the existing ones and know what to remove and what to add. So implementing these policies and regulations that support sustainable mining practices, which includes the use of clean technologies, the conservation of resources, and the protection of local communities, will help out. It will serve as a way forward. Then financing and investment. attracting financing and investment for sustainable mining projects, including impact investing, green bonds, public-private partnerships. We have to collaborate because mining is a very financial constraint business. It's not what one person can venture into. We need collaboration, partnership with both the government, the stakeholders, the private sector, and other individuals. So we talk about the capacity building, every time capacity building. Building the capacity of local institutions and stakeholders to manage and regulate mining and mineral development, including training in environmental management, social responsibility, and financial management. Environmental management, how after mining, we don't need to leave all those pits open. We need to study on mine closure, and we need to implement and enforce it. That's what the government needs to do, and all that. So way forward, going on, research and development, supporting research and development in sustainable mining technologies, such as the use of electric vehicles, renewable energy, and energy efficient processing systems. And we need more research. We need the young ones to come up with research. We can't sit down and be saying there's no job, there's no that. We need to come up with something. Let's do further research. Not to stay one place and be saying there's no job or all that. When there are jobs waiting for us, there are things you have to do. Come out with something, be doing something. One day opportunity will come. So trade and market, supporting the development of sustainable supply chains for minerals and mineral products, including the use of traceability systems, conflict-free minerals, and ethical sourcing practices. International cooperation, that's the collaboration, collaborating with other countries and regions to share knowledge, best practices, resources for sustainable mining and mineral development. There are countries, international countries, that are already excelling in aspect of some of the minerals, maybe in gold. I know South Africa is doing very well in gold. We can gain knowledge from them, know how they select their best practices and all that, and try if we can implement it in our own country. If it works for us, then we go for it. If it doesn't work, we drop it. Local engagement. Engaging with local communities to ensure that mining and mineral development projects are socially responsible and support local development and community investment. We need to engage with the locals. Next, climate change. Addressing the impacts of climate change on mining and mineral development, including the development of adaptation and resilience strategies. Environmental remediation, supporting the remediation and restoration of land and ecosystems affected by mining activities, including the rehabilitation of abandoned mines. That's mine reclamation, like I said earlier, and the management of waste rocks and tailings. The management of waste rocks and tailings, like I said before, I've seen where rocks are used to produce pots, plates, and other utensils. They can still be used to produce designs, artworks that are fixed in the house. So many things are in the offices. Like there was a time I went for NAPE conference. Someone came up with maybe like all this, a flower vase, a very beautiful flower vase. Then what filled it was white cores. It was filled with white cores and it looks so beautiful. But in so many places, they throw the cores away and all that, but you can use that to create designs, beautiful artifacts that you even sell and make great money through it. In conclusion, mining and mineral development is a crucial sector of the economy that provides essential services and resources for a wide range of industries and sectors. And by promoting sustainable mining practices and responsible resource management, we can support economic growth, reduce environmental degradation, and contribute to sustainable industrial development. The role of technology in mining and mineral development is increasing, and it includes use of drones, use of artificial intelligence, data analytics to improve efficiency and sustainability. It is also important to recognize that mining and mineral development also presents challenges such as environmental and social impacts, and that these challenges must be addressed through effective policy, regulation, and capacity building. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Esther. We are very, very grateful. And what we are seeing today has even encouraged some of us to say we will just sit behind and be calling out our daughters, our younger ones, even secondary school, now to come and teach us, you understand, what they know, because that is the only way we can, when we talk about sustainable development, when we talk about developing people for leadership positions, that is the only way we can get there. In this process, we build up our confidence. We challenge our children, our youths, to embrace research, to be able to understand. And we challenge them to get more educated, to look for that knowledge. You go for meetings, you go for conferences. In this sector now, at least I know, than about 3 or 4, even everywhere, you understand, where knowledge is being shared daily. So we are really, really extremely grateful. You have mentioned the whole lot of what it takes, you understand, to be able to have sustainable development in the mining sector. Everything we do, everything, I went for a conference and I said, just tell me something you are not using, even within your body, the one we consume. You understand, everything now has one mining component or the other. When you brush your teeth, you understand, you have a component of it. When you use your powder, you have a component of it. Any makeup you put on your body has a component of it. The clothes you are wearing has a component of it. So tell me, nothing. No wonder they said by 2030, the tons of mineral resources we will need is unquantifiable. Even ICCM cannot even say this is specifically what it is. It's just projections. And projections that are failing daily because it's skyrocketing daily. So it is us. And so if a woman says, I don't know what to do, and then all you do, you understand, is creating havoc in the sector and becoming a nuisance value, you can't think through. Something is wrong. There are so many things to do in that sector. And I challenge us today, you understand, that we should go out there and look at opportunities. I saw a lady who was using, not even a lady, our Gold and Gemstone show last year. If you look at the award-winning dress, she was wearing, we collected the cracked beads from Allen Chibuike, you understand? That's one of the major miners. The ones, you understand, they cracked, we didn't even process them. The waste was what we collected. And come and see how it was used. Tajiri made a dress, you understand, using one of those waste beads and converted it with silver on a wedding dress. Again, it turned out to be something. I have a beautiful gown in my wardrobe too that I used with just stones like that, cracked stones, not even cut into specific shape. They turned out to be good. So there are so many things to do in this system. If you are good in designing, if you are good in making bags, you understand, so many things. Application, that is what nobody is asking you to take the risk if you don't have the stamina. Oh no, I can't go into the jungle. Even then, with all the imposition, the various rates are not bad either. It's just a system where we have to face reality on what it takes, you understand, to mine. Mining is not cheap. Mining is capital intensive. But if we are in this space, we must utilize that space to say, these are the opportunities in that sector. And those opportunities we have to learn, we have to understand. Look at our clay. We have one of the best clays, especially around Okeluse. Our clay is so plastic in nature. If you take our clay and you even use your hand to make it into shape like we do, do as children, now get a tumbling machine, to file and tumble and put all the colors into it, you find out that you started making mugs. I was looking at her and improve your knowledge, improve your imagination by going on the internet to see how some of these simple things are made. You'll be surprised that you will get inspiration. And the total cost of doing some of these things is not as expensive in terms of the capital outlay to buy the equipment. So you have blessed us today again, and we are very grateful. However, everything we must do. I'm a product of BRIM, that's University of British Columbia. When we want to make any presentation, you acknowledge the land and you talk about pollution. You understand? So you must always acknowledge the land and give respect to the land. That is, avoid pollution, avoid degradation. We can see the disasters all over. If you saw what happened around Galveston in Texas State some few weeks ago, you'll be amazed. For 6-7 days, no light, nothing. Why? Because the climate is changing. It's changing, and the whole tropical, the whole pressure is coming from the Atlantics. You understand? If you understand how a hurricane and tornado works, and Africa is having its own effect too. You understand? So if we learn to respect the land, some of these things can be abated. So let us respect the land. Let us make sure we do things the way it should be done, and then that's way we all have a happy society. If you have questions, I don't know, Dollarine, I don't know what method you are using you understand? I just equally chip in. We have people who run the classes. Please, if you have questions or you want to engage the speakers, I think if you signify your hand by reaction, then apart from those ones in the box, they can call you and they unmute you alone, and then you ask your question, and then you mute yourself back after the question. So that's where we see we are all hearing one another now, and I think it's beautiful that way. So once again, I want to specifically use this opportunity to say thank you to every one of you, you understand, who keep on attending. It's encouraging when you see people all over, you understand, especially most of my South African groups and West African groups are always eager to attend our classes. I've been getting messages to say, oh, network is bad, this is bad, but we still have this number. We want to say thank you. And you can always equally follow us on YouTube. So, Dollarine, yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful contribution. Yes, we have 2 questions currently in the chat box directed at Mrs. Chinaza. And the first question is from Mrs. Olushola Olaniyi, and she is asking, what about the graph of energy mix in Nigeria and Africa? I would like to repeat the question for the benefit of Mrs. Chinaza. What about the graph of energy mix in Nigeria and Africa? Mrs. Chinaza, would you like to take each question, or do I read both out and you respond to both at once?
Okay, I think you just asked one now, right?
Yes,
energy mix, right?
Yes.
So, okay, let me just answer that one immediately. So looking at sorry, I skipped that. I didn't include it in my presentation. But overall, that is what it has been. You have coal, oil, and being the most dominant. And you have renewables it's very, very less than 10% for Nigeria. I'm talking about Nigeria. So the energy mix is dominated by the fossil fuel. That is what we currently have now. So, but if we go on, like Engineer Janet said, the energy transition for us will be to increase the percentage of the renewables while we are trying to make it affordable, right? Because it's not just bringing them. Are they affordable? Can the poor masses afford it? So we always go for what the people can afford, and bearing in mind environmental sustainability. So that is what I will speak to that. I don't know if
Yeah, let me help you a little in that. The energy mix, like Mrs. Olushola asked, is a very good question. Nigeria is battling, and Nigeria is a bit confused. I don't know of other countries. We came up with a policy, you understand, where we said, you remember the IPP, where they said people can acquire licenses and generate power. People responded to that and they generated the power. But when they generated the power, they suddenly find out that they cannot hook their power, you understand, to the grid. So that became a problem. So that was what led to a series of policies. So you have, as we speak, so you have power generated on ground, but you cannot hook it. And that's why you find some estates, you will find it all lit up the moment, you understand, because they have the power, especially for those who are generating power. You know, some companies have power, but they can't even share with their neighbor. They can't make money because they cannot hook it up. So energy mix is equally very, very important. And government has come up with a chain of policies now around this, where they are looking on how to mix it. But currently, as Chinaza has said, fossil fuels still take the #1 position in Nigeria in terms of sources of energy. Then followed by coal. Our coal, for some of the companies that still uses coal, they still have their coal there. But we are looking at natural gas, you understand? And that's why you see government laying aggressive pipelines on gas policies, various gas policies to come in. And government itself is encouraging the use of renewable energy, solar power. Solar power, you find solar power equally coming forcibly in this space. Then, if you look in Koluama, that's the river, because when I used to be active in my consultancy, you understand, some years back, Ministry of Power tried to harness the wind energy from the coastline. You understand, when you move a little bit to the Atlantics, you understand, around Bayelsa axis, you find out that they were trying to harvest wind energy. What became of that, I don't know, because that will have been another good source. But if you go to Castina has an array, you understand, of wind energy they are trying to handle. So these are the sources of energy we are using, but we must have a good policy to be able to make it very well. And then the energy we talked about, again, moving from one to the other at a speed will be dangerous to the people, because how many people can transit at that speed? You have to look at the number of things you have to reconfigure, the number of things you need to change. So what somebody suggested is that let us go slow and steady. We cannot rush it. The Western world wanted the rest of the world to rush it, that is the Global South. And the Global South now tell them, pay us reparation, pay us compensation, you understand, because you created the pollution in the first instance that led to the climate change we're having. You understand? So we are not really offenders. We are not, but still not. Nothing has really been paid. You understand? So if you look at the triangle she drew, the popular triangle, you find out that is where everybody is trying to say, okay, come to the radical middle. You understand? In terms of cost, in terms of affordability, in terms of technology, the radical middle is a safe spot to stay and to operate from. So we hope, you understand, that Africans generally, if you look at, Tanzania? Yes, Zambia. Zambia now, because of the fall, you know the quantum of energy they have excess energy, but yet they cannot sell to neighboring countries. We should be ashamed. We should be able to transmit or transport, energy exchange, develop energy exchange corridors, you understand, where we can send this across to one another. But gradually, we pray that Africa continue to unite, you understand, that we'll be able to get there. So energy mix must be a reality, must work, because even in developed countries now, because of the hazards they are coming from nature, Mother Nature, they are now, generator is a popular thing. Before, you don't hear adverts on generator, but generator now in the state of Texas, you understand, is a must for people to have generator, because you can go without light for days. When tornado or the other one strikes, you understand, your power cuts, and it takes a while for them to be able to fix. So energy mix is very important for the survival of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful contribution.
You can leave Mrs. Olushola to want, because she's a professional too. Maybe she has her perspective. So you can lock us up and ask her, maybe she has Mrs. Olushola, if you have any contribution you want to make to it, you can equally contribute to that.
Okay, Madam Olushola, I've requested that you unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Madam, for the analysis that you have added to the reply of the presenter. My main concern is data. If you don't have data, it is very difficult to do any serious development. I discovered that the presenter was showing a graph from developed other countries outside Africa and Nigeria. That was why I asked that we are Nigerians and we are Africans. Where are the data for our country, our nation, and our region? Because on the basis of that, the people that are into policy development, implementation, and regulation, and the populace can know, yes, this is where we are, and we know where we're going. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy that the likes I can see Judith Kuranga, you understand, who is a specialist. I can see you here. You understand? So take note of that, because we keep on telling AMDC and African Union, whom we work with, to let them know that data is a major problem in Africa. But unfortunately, data is just one of those things Africans don't even pay attention to. As we speak, when we want to talk about women in the ASM sector, we quote absurd figures, you understand, that are not in reality with time. Figures that has been generated for some time by Hands and Co are what we quote. So we don't expend money on data, and that is one of our problems. It makes everything we do a little bit defective, but hopefully they are listening, you understand? So we can't be in all this. So that's why I said there are so many things to embrace in the sector, you understand? And I'm so happy that Chinaza, you understand, it's in one of those sectors where even the kind of data they are collecting is not necessarily what we are talking about, which there are several, when you talk of machine learning, the kind of data, you understand, at the disposal of artificial intelligence before it can perform its function is not easy. So data collection is an enormous sector that we should all look at and find one way or the other of doing something within this space. Thank you. That's a very good contribution, man. We appreciate you.
Sorry, Madam Janet. I was trying to locate on my phone here. I can't see my side for raising a hand, but I wanted to pick that from Madam who just contributed on this. Actually, as you have said with the MDC, they are working on that. They will be speaking themselves about it. But among the things that currently in the continental move we are trying to address is the having information and the recommendations in the policies, having data, enough data for us to discuss when we have transition minerals. You can get an example from the Renewable Energy Agency. They already have a quantification from the 2050 Paris Agreement, Climate Agreement, which requires 27 trillion USD by 2050 for them to be able to transition. So the question remained on our side is that how much do we even know for the resources that we are having? For example, for the mega projects, how much do we quantify so that when we promote continentally, we speak of values, like what you have said is very important and actually has been captured in the policies ongoing to be formulated. But I think it's the high time for us all within our regional economic chambers, within our association, within the WIM, we can have a wing for transition minerals, which we call them strategic on our side. They are not critical as it is for them. But how do we address this? Is for us also trying to see if we can engage our governments, for example, the ministries, going there and try to have at least the country data. Wherever we are having these kind of meetings, MDC can collect information. And then they see, okay, so we can even actually get this. When we have consultants, we can even refer them where they can get. And continentally, we may come up with an agreement, just like the one for Paris, 2050 Paris Climate Agreement, which will help us to understand quantitatively how much it takes, prioritization of the mega projects for green mineral projects, which we may embark or we may advocate for, the nature of minerals which are giving us I'm actually somewhere buying food. Sorry, I was coming. That's why I didn't want to put my video. I hope I'm not disturbing. Yeah, so that's what I wanted just to add. And we will keep sharing more when we have the sessions, but I wanted just to ask for members because they are coming from different regions. Let's do our assignment, even if we are not asked at our country levels. Let's provoke these kind of dialogues with the ministries to try to see. And another thing which I may ask is to promote our local digital solutions, which have been formulated. Continentally, we have a number of people who have strategies in place and they have put them digital, trying even to embark into blockchain technologies for preservation and security of information. So we can see how we can continentally have those kind of forums. I remember the first WIM meeting, Madam Janet, back 2 years, you invited me and I spoke about digitalization in the mining sector, and we have also worked on that. So we want to invite even other countries through WIM Nigeria, the way they are doing this great job, to see how we can have these kind of dialogues and see how we can promote continentally these kind of technologies. How are they on use? And then we can adopt them within our AWIMA. AWIMA is the platform which I think when we talk of regional economic chambers, for the thematic groups addressing women, we don't leave AWIMA on board to do this. So that's what I wanted to add. I'm passionate of that part because I'm also working on it. But it was very resourceful, and I appreciate for all the presenters. I've learned a lot today, and I would love to see more from your presentations. Thank you so much.
So much, Madam Judith. And then when you are doing your thing there, I think you mentioned something that is very important. We should be part of our take home. And Mrs. Olushola Olani, incidentally, you have been nominated to chair the capacity development thing. And I think you will work with the technical thing. For you now to look at women in mining, that is the transitional aspect of it. So that Judith, when you make your recommendation, you understand, to AMDC, just like we adopted this AJEC, the gold and gem thing we are doing now, we should be able to look at that aspect and see how we are able to get forcibly involved and make sure we are able to collate data. In fact, and I believe that it will go, because when you talk of mining now in this aspect, this mining goes beyond extractives alone. You are looking at the fossil fuel, you are looking, so there must be a common ground where we are all talking and sending data, you understand, to AMDC. Then that is African Union. So I think that's one take home you can take from this meeting today. At least take back to your office, you understand, to be able to explain that. Thank you so much. We are grateful for that contribution. Any other question?
Okay, yes, there is actually a second question, but I would like to call on Etoyin Yusuf for a contribution, maybe to the first question before we proceed to the second.
Hey, sorry, before you go, Auntie Mrs. Okunawa from Florida, I appreciate you. I can see you. That's one of the oil gurus in women whom we are proud of. I appreciate you so much, man. God bless you, man. Yes, man.
Thank you, ma. God bless you too.
Thank you, man. Yes, man.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Tony Yusuf. I'm a member of Women in Energy Oil and Gas, and I'm particularly interested in the. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, you're very audible.
Oh, great. So I'm particularly interested in the energy aspect of it. In Women in Energy Oil and Gas, I chair a committee, the Future Energy, Renewables and Climate Action Committee of WIOD, and I am happy to tell us that in terms of energy mix, Nigeria has abundance. We have the sun, we have the wind, and we do a lot of renewable energy.
Hope we didn't lost her.
Okay, I think she's having
Energy opportunity.
Hello?
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
Hello?
Yeah,
okay,
go
so
on.
my to rural communities, last mile communities, underserved communities. Of course, solar energy system has, come to stay in those places. But in Women in Energy, Oil and Gas, we believe that no nation can truly develop without their natural resources. And there's a lot of demonizing the fossil fuel. And we all Women in Energy, so we all believe that we need to bring to the awareness of the entire world as much as we can that the fossil fuel, for example, can be utilized sustainably in ways that will reduce the carbon emissions. And the story the world is telling is net zero net carbon emission.
It's a
It is
lie.
not no emission. So as much as possible, we are just taking decarbonization efforts to reduce carbon in the atmosphere, in the way we exploit, the way we use, the way we distribute energy, and also every form of decarbonization effort, including nature-based efforts. And that is the reason why we are, the Women in Energy, Oil and Gas, is taking the responsibility of declaring the World Decarbonization Day. That is marked, celebrated annually and globally. And we has marked September 3 as the World Decarbonization Day. And we have a World Decarbonization Summit that is coming, the first one is coming up in September 3 to 5 at the State House Banquet Hall. And we believe that we all need to come together. We are like the largest producer of fossil fuel in Africa, let me put it that way. And we have also taken up the responsibility of decarbonizing the world. So please join us and let's use our energy in sustainable ways. Let's reduce the carbon and the atmosphere. We can do this together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Toyin Yusuf. That's a very good information we are hearing because I believe that the more the merrier, especially when we champion some causes. Like this kind of cause that myself and Duni were talking, your first election, that was where I met Auntie Mrs. Okunowo. We were the one who organized and made sure that that association took it, started off. So it is nice looking at it and seeing areas of synergy, beyond now, where we can now network using our respective networks, you understand, to come together to a table and actually make it go beyond Nigeria, go beyond Africa, you understand, and penetrate into other regions. So I'll take your number so that we see what we can do. Maybe a member of Women in Mining here, you understand, joins that your group to form a committee, you understand, where we're able to look at it and look at it in a more proactive way. Because the most important thing we are agitating is that we are mothers and we want to live a better, because we feel the impact of anything more, whether it's affliction, diseases, or whatever, because of our children. These men that are managing directors or presidents today are the sons and daughters of somebody. So we care, we feel the impacts more. So let's network and work together. And then I can tell you that we will get, I'm not saying you are not getting results, but the results too will be very good, because even the net zero that we brandish, I've always said I'm not a net zero person because I've challenged it in every forum. It's not possible to have a net zero. You can reduce it drastically, but it can never be net zero. So let's see how we work together, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. Collaboration is the new oil, so let's do it, ma.
Yes, ma. Thank you, ma. Yes, ma. So I'll take your number after. I'll get back to you. Dollarin, please take note of her number and expunge it so that we can communicate with her. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Madam Toyin, kindly drop your contact details in the chat box. And
no, you can send it to you. She can send it to you directly. She might not want to drop in the chat box, depending. Just find a way of sending it to just engage her now, communicate with her and get it. In this era of hackers and everything, you have to be very careful what you just drop, especially personal details. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. We can proceed to the next question. And the next question is, how does electrification contribute to the reduction of poverty? What are the yielding factors? So I think this question is directed at Mrs. Chinaza. Mrs. Chinaza, are you still with us?
Yes,
okay.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So thank you for the question. Basically, I don't like speaking from theory. I like speaking from experience. How does electrification relate to poverty reduction? For instance, I was engaged in a survey of renewable energy assessment in Anambra State. So when I visited these people, when they get light, their electricity from the national grid, they spend less for the cost of their production, thereby enhancing their profits. That's a very practical example. But when these people don't get that electricity from the national grid, which is cheaper for them, they buy fuel. And that time, even fuel has also increased more than it was when we carried that survey. The cost of fuel increases the cost of their production. No matter how much they want to raise their selling price, their profit margin has reduced. So bring it back again to for students. There was a time I was doing internship, virtual internship. We need light, we need electricity to be able to work on our data, to analyze and explore the natural gas in the northern Gulf of Mexico. We had severe challenges with electricity. We could not perform optimally. At some point, we had to go and pay to lodge in our team in a hotel to be able to deliver that. Now, imagine when we have constant electricity, it fuels our productivity. You have rest working than when you don't have electricity. So that relationship between electricity rate and poverty is there. When you have electricity, you produce more, you are more productive than when you don't have it. So that's the relationship I'm going to bring it into. I don't want to start talking about theory. I just want to bring it into practical terms. And I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Let me support the person. Look, just like the very practical thing you brought up. You saw that when there was no electricity, there are certain things you cannot even get to buy. You can't get those things to buy. Those people that are producing those things, let's look at people who are baking, people who are grinding pepper. Let's just go basic. They can't. And therefore, when people say, oh, things in Nigeria are so expensive, yes, why are they so expensive? They are so expensive because they are on generator. And then the cost of generator must be factored in. When you go to hotels in Nigeria, you understand? They say the hotel rate is so. That hotel rate is so because if they don't put on generator for you, your AC in your room will not work. When your AC in your room does not work, you are complaining. So you have to pay more out of your pocket. More is getting out of your pocket for a value that should not be as expensive, but that's extra because they are using generator is making it work. And then the number of people that can enjoy such services are limited. So they too will not break, they might not even be able to break even. So you find them fold up. So we cannot deny power. Power is an enhancer, you understand, of economic development.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, for that wonderful contribution. Yes, I think we've basically come to the end of today's session, and I'm sure each and every single one of us here as experts and active stakeholders in the solid mineral sector have gotten one or two lessons, one or two key takeaways to apply to daily practices. The emphasis of today's session was leveraging innovative technologies for sustainable mining practices here in Nigeria. And definitely we've made headway with the wonderful contributions that have come through. Just to give a closing remark, a closing summary of who we are and what we are here for those that are just joining us. Women in Mining Nigeria is a non-governmental organization focused on protecting the rights of women and children at every level of the value chain. And this is the Women in Mining Training Institute. It is held on the third Thursday of every month. It is very constant. That is to say, you can mark your calendars for next month, the third Thursday of the third week of next month, and we'll definitely ensure to have this program. A big thank you to every participants from Zambia, participants from Tanzania. I'm seeing the messages here in the chat box, and I say a big thank you to our participants for joining us today. And yes, I would like each and every single one of us to kindly open up our cameras for a closing picture, and then we can call it a day. So please, if you're still with us, kindly open up your cameras and we take a group picture and we call it a day. For the slide 1, I'm going to the slide 1 now. Okay, yes, I'm seeing some beautiful participants over here. Can the technical team take pictures? Okay, so we are done with
Why taking the picture, Dollarine? Why
Why
taking the picture, Dollarine? Sorry, Dollarine, why taking the picture? I think Mrs. Toyin Yusuf number you collected is wrong. You had 10 digits. I think Nigerian phones are 11 digits. Is that not right or something? So make sure you confirm. And then while taking the picture, let me use this opportunity to really appreciate every one of us. Every one of us is important. I might not mention each name, various associations, WIOG members that are here. I can see Mr. Godfrey, you understand? I can see quite a number of faces. I just want to say thank you. Let us continue to network together. In this space, there's no competition. In this space, this is a very tough space. Auntie Toyin and Mrs. Okunowo, I really appreciate you. I know your worth. I know who you are. You understand? And I want to say well done for making women proud and continue to make women proud. Women, we can shatter the ceiling if we all decide to work together. But the moment we bring in the spirits of competition, the men will say, you see, you are dividing yourself, you are breaking yourself. So for those of you who are in that habit, it pays nobody. Let us all strengthen ourselves, strengthen our base to be able to address issues commonly. The African Union is listening to us. Let us not scatter ourselves in the continent and not be able to have a headway. Together we can make it. And together there are several committees, there are several places where we can all serve. For instance, see what we have brought to the table today. One of us will go there or two of us will go there and then we make it happen. We all cannot occupy the whole space. That is the essence of collaboration. So I thank my sister Judith. You have a major role to play for us, you understand, in African Union. You understand, whatever we are gathering here, you've heard about what they are doing. Let us promote this decarbonization day. Let us make it a day we are all celebrating. Auntie Melody, you understand, from South Africa, Mama Awima, you understand. Let us make sure this day goes round, such that it becomes a major day. Just like they create days for us in the global north and we start running after it. Let us start creating days, you understand, that we too want to celebrate in the global south. Once again, on behalf of Women in Mining, I sincerely want to say thank you and thank you and thank you and God bless you. Well, I can see Michelle, I say well done, a wonderful assistant secretary. We say thank you to everybody. God bless you. See you next month. We love you. And we are starting what we call chat by the fireside. It's just to bring in all those our Igbo friends. They tell you that the time zones are not the same. So issues, it could be any association, not necessarily anybody, any association, just this is the age of knowledge, the biblical prophecy that we are in the end times. So let us maximize and see what we can store into this our small head before we go. And then what we can download. Just like that pastor from this country that died with the wife in the plane crash. What's that country? He said, I will go to my grave empty. And I think the man actually went empty because there's hardly any Christian place you get to. You hear his message is ringing. So whatever you have. Yes, Maro. So whatever you have in your head, empty it before you go as much as you can. You understand? And once again, I say thank you. And thank you all for those who wish me happy birthday on my 66th birthday. One is aging gradually. And so I'm grateful seeing the younger ones. The younger ones will be here more. So Michelle, get ready for your next presentation. You understand? So that is it. Dollarine, get ready. All of you get ready. It's the age of the young ones. God bless you. God bless you all. Thank you. Happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
We have to talk for my cake.
E-cake. The technology is coming. Chinaza, give us that technology to transfer cake. Oh, you must think of that one where we can transfer cake. Real time. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you, Geoffrey. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. 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 God bless you. God bless you.
Bye, Madam Jenny.
Thank you, ma. Oh, thank you. God bless you, my darling. Thank you.
Cake online.
We
can distribute the cake online.
Auntie Salau. Professor herself. I didn't know you were there. How are you?
From the beginning to the end. Laura didn't call me.
Trust you.